going to talk all about a terrific homegrown company in Connecticut. We're going to talk all about airfoils. What is an airfoil? We'll let you know. I have as my guest Max McIntyre, Vice President Industrial Operations of New England Airfoil Products.
Yes.
All right. Your company goes all the way back to Albert Einstein's nephew, who founded it, George Einstein, in 1955. What is an airfoil?
An airfoil is a rotating part that goes in several sections of the engine. They go in the compressor section and also in the turbine section. The components that we manufacture are based solely in the high pressure and low pressure compressor section, the cold section of an engine.
So this is in an airplane, it's in ships,
yes.
It's in all kinds of things.
Many, many different sectors.
How many people do you employ?
We employ currently 112 people.
That's a lot of folks. All right, so can a plane fly without an airfoil on board?
If it uses an old prop style engine, or if it's a glider.
Good. See, my dad was a pilot, but I don't know that much about it. How has the company changed from 1955, which is a really long time, to now? Where do we see your products?
You see our products across a variety of sectors. You see them again in aircraft engines, both fixed wing and rotary wing. You see them in spacecraft. You see them in defense equipment. You see them in ships and industrial gas power generation turbines, and you also see them in oil and gas, the oil and gas sector, for pulling natural resources out of the ground.
So worldwide?
Worldwide.
Your product.
Worldwide.
What do you do for NASA?
Well, you make components that go into engines that send parts into space.
Well, that sounds easy. Are they all made here? Are they made outside the country? Where are the products made?
New England Airfoil Products manufactures its components right here in Farmington, Connecticut.
Okay, as far as in the sea, where are your components?
Ships. In ship engines. They go into ship engines.
And also on land, where do we find them on land?
On land, you'll find them in oil and gas power generation. Again, pull up natural resources out of the ground, and also in some defense equipment.
What kind of defense equipment?
Tanks.
Tanks. So nothing can run, basically, all these amazing ships and airplanes and, what have you. It's this company. How much has it grown since 1955?
The company has gone through many stages, and it's changed hands several times. The company went from employees all the way up to 450 employees in the late 80s, and then it started to compress. It started to shed off jobs as things became easier to make and other opportunities presented. Well, the company actually downsized. It downsized all the way to December of 2015, where it was purchased by another company called Pietro Rosa, which is a 130-year-old fifth-generation family-owned business. And when Pietro Rosa purchased the asset, it started with 14 people in January of 2016. I came on board in February of 2017 as hire number 42. So since February of 2017, we've grown exponentially.
And how have you changed? How have you adapted over the years then? It sounds like you're going in many different directions.
Yes. Well, your equipment changes, your manufacturing processes change, your manufacturing methods change. And as they change, you have to evolve with that. Hopefully you're on the cutting edge as things change and help develop even better ways to manufacture components.
Do you have a lot of competition in this field?
There's competition in this field, and that's fine, because there are a lot of engines just for aircraft, just for large commercial engines on backlog. There are 26,000 plus large commercial engines on back order right now.
Wow. That
doesn't include regional jets, it doesn't include spares, it doesn't include military aircraft, just large commercial engines from, say, a Boeing 737 or Airbus 320 and up for commercial.
Do many people know that New England Airfoil Products exist in this state? Because when I heard about you guys, I had no idea.
Yes, yes. It's well known in the state and the world for what it does. Matter of fact, there are companies that have started because of New England Airfoil Products as suppliers to the company.
In state or out of state?
In state.
Really? So it's sort of a feeder situation?
It's a feeder.
When you all go to the Paris Air Show, are you showing new things? What do you do when you're over there?
Well, at the air show, I can't talk to it directly because I haven't been to the air show. But when the company goes to the air show, they're meeting with large original equipment manufacturers for aircraft components, from Airbus to Boeing to Embraer, Bombardier, other manufacturers of aircraft. So they're over there speaking with and making deals and seeing if they can grow business with those companies.
Are there stories that you've told? You've just come on board not so long ago to this company. Are there stories and the history in the building, its humble beginnings when George Einstein was putting this together? He was an engineer,
yes.
So the DNA was in the family. They're very bright. What are some of the stories of the early years of this company?
Oh, some of the
You're still learning them, probably.
I'm still learning them. I'm still learning them, and we have several employees that have been there for 40+ years, and personally knew George Einstein, and they talk of in the past how it was a big family, had golf clubs, it has a large cafeteria, and it had, you know, it was a community, is what it was.
You served our nation, and thank you very much for that. Mm-hmm. When you were out and about, little did you know you would work for this company. Mm-hmm. Did you ever operate or come in contact with anything that was made by this company, do you know?
No, it's a funny story. I think that I was in Special Forces, I was on military freefall teams and parachuting all the time. For some reason, they thought
dangerous
you
stuff.
knew how to make a jet engine. But I came into this industry 10 years ago, and I ran into a fantastic group of people. New England Airfoil Products is also part of a large consortium called the Aerospace Component Manufacturers Trade Organization. It's 117 Connecticut and Southwest Massachusetts-based aerospace component manufacturers located right here in the Connecticut River Valley. And we are competitors. We have people that make large round things, people that make airfoils, people that make tubes, everything from the tip of an aircraft to the tail of an aircraft, the nose cone of an engine to the exhaust case of an engine. And we share best practices in an effort to keep the business here in Connecticut. This ecosystem is incredible when you talk about aircraft component manufacturing. And we manufacture components, again, for Pratt & Whitney, General Electric, Rolls-Royce, Honeywell, and other large commercial and military engine manufacturers.
You talk about the ecosystem, and a lot of this is homegrown.
Yes.
What are the reaches of all of these components coming together? I mean, basically, planes wouldn't fly without a lot of folks here in Connecticut.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true.
And NASA couldn't do what it's doing without a lot of folks in Connecticut.
Right, right. So the ecosystem is alive and well. Like I said, it's a large hub for this manufacturing of aerospace components. And as we move forward, we're now looking for the next generation of lifters to help us propel into the next generation.
And what will that look like? Do you have any idea?
We do. We know that there's going to be a silver tsunami, a wave of retirements over the next 5 to 10 years of great men and women who have worked in this industry, careerists who stayed in this industry, and they're going to be retiring. So we have to look for how to generate the next pipeline. How are we doing this? We have great relationships with the state universities and community colleges. They are providing the best and the brightest through STEM-type courses, also the high schools, the tech high schools, through community colleges such as Asnuntuck, which is the state center for the advanced manufacturing curriculum. That has migrated to Naugatuck Valley, Housatonic Valley, Quinnebog, Goodwin College in East Hartford, and Manchester Community College. So they are doing their best to go ahead and train and educate these people in advanced manufacturing techniques to be the pipeline.
So who do you need to bring into these companies? You need engineers.
Obviously, yes, engineers.
You need nuts and bolts kinds of people. Who do you need?
We need people, again, that have a strong math background, people who know how to translate this into this. The equipment we're working with is very modern, high-tech equipment, and the image of a dark, dank, and dirty factories, that's old. Now modern facilities are automated, climate controlled, clean. They have to be. These are the requirements that are expected of our customers. And also, how are you going to attract the best and the brightest to a place that's dark, dank, and dingy, and just not a good environment? So these courses provide us with people with a base knowledge who come to our organizations and they learn from our engineers, from our techs, from the people who've been on the ground for years and years and years, and we develop their skills in-house. We also get very, very, very positive support from DECD and the Department of Labor.
From the state, yeah.
From the state, yes, to go ahead and provide kickers to keep these programs going, and it's sort of a sharing the burden of developing this workforce. So the Department of Labor and DECD have incumbent worker training funds, and they have apprenticeship funds available to all manufacturers to take advantage of.
Is it taught enough in the high schools that, hey, you know, you can have this life in aerospace? Are we doing a good enough job of telling high schoolers, hey, you can take this path?
I don't think so. We talk about this quite often. One of the branches of this organization, the ACM, is the workforce development. And we do our best as companies to go out there and try to inspire young men and women to come into this industry. And typically, you will meet, say, high school guidance counselors that say things like, well, they're going to be going to college. Great. You want to be an engineer? Of course you're going to college. You want to be a project management manager? Of course you have to go to college. So these types of jobs are available. Now, as for those who wish to take a different career path, we're not talking about jobs. We're talking about careers. Right. Different career paths are paths where you go to one of these courses, or you go to an organization like ours and we teach you. We have come to the realization that we have to grow our own. We have to grow our own.
And there's a guaranteed job coming out of it.
There's a guaranteed career coming out of it.
Yeah.
A career.
That would last a lifetime.
Definitely last a lifetime.
As New England Airfoil Products changes and adapts with modern times, do you look to branch out into other things as well, or you're staying right in your path?
I think right now we're going to stay right in our path and work on the high volume mass production of airfoils to meet this demand, to meet the demand that the sector is calling for, the sectors.
How big are airfoils? Describe that for somebody who doesn't know.
You can have an airfoil. An airfoil is a very difficult component to manufacture because of the geometry. You're talking about reforming metal and making metal out of forgings, out of castings, out of just raw material, and making it have a curve to it so that it can grab air and push air, compress air into a combustor. So some compressors that go into, say, industrial gas turbine engines are very large, 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet tall. Others are as small as my thumbnail.
And that would go into what?
It would go into a smaller turbine engine, a smaller engine into the compressor section.
It sounds as though you've figured out that we have to grow our own. We have to get a pipeline going. As you point out, a more tech life is still a career, but you also need engineers. How many jobs are available in this sector in the state on any given day?
Right now, we have grown so rapidly that I could probably use another 30 people by the end of the summer. That's our
really? Let me just write that down. So 30 people doing what? All kinds of different things? All
sorts of different things, but mostly the inspectors who have to know metrology, how to work these complicated pieces of equipment that measure components down to, you know, 10,000ths of an inch, to the machine operators and machinists who are responsible to make these components and measure them as they come off the machine and just keep that flow going.
Very interesting. And you said there's a backlog of how many again?
Of just large commercial engines. We're talking again 737, A320 Airbus size engines and up of 26,000 plus.
So what do you, when the orders are here, what do you do with that when the demand is there?
Well, the demand, that demand of 26,000 isn't to be made today. That demand will stretch over years as aging aircraft are taken out of the fleet, new aircraft replace them. And it's a magnificent time in this state for manufacturing. It's a magnificent time in aerospace, and it's a magnificent time in the state because of the next generation of engines. Some of them being made right here in Connecticut by our own Pratt & Whitney, the geared turbofan. These engines will be going far into the future, far into several lifetimes past ours.
People should read more about this.
It's incredible. Yes.
Max McIntyre, thanks so much for coming on and enlightening us about the industry in the state of Connecticut that is so very important.
You're welcome.
Spending all night kissing, and if one was right here, then who else is missing? Got a little sidetracked to find myself wishing I found the keys to the door, but it's also a metaphor. Things keep locked in the grocery store, but mine just to save time. Skip right ahead to the last ride.